starting with the song concept. Medusa's Masquerade was not actually the first song that I wrote for my debut EP, Zealous. I knew that I wanted to debut with an EP. I knew that I wanted it to be 5 tracks. I knew that I very much wanted it to be characteristic of me. I wanted it to create give you an insight on my character, on, my style, my vibe. And I wanted it to be something that showcased what I can do and what I'm about. That's the general concept for all of Zealous. However, I wrote 3 to 4 songs, and I feel like at that point, none of them felt like a debut single. None of them felt like the main single. None of them felt like the first single that I wanted to come out of the gate with, right? So Medusa's Masquerade is actually the 5th song I wrote for the EP. And that doesn't mean it's the last. There's actually one scrapped one that it may never see the light of day. It wasn't that good, but it's the 5th song I wrote for the EP. Once I wrote this one, I knew that this was it. That Medusa's Masquerade was going to be like the debut, the main single, the one that I was really excited for, the one I was really excited to share, that I thought fit perfectly. And if you are curious, we can listen to a little bit of the first demo. Just a little bit, okay? It's very bare bones and simple. It had different vocals on it, but right now I just have it set as a funny 8-bit sound, okay? So a fun little thing is the intro. That stayed the same. You can't hear. Oh, all right, I'll turn it up more. So the clearing throat sound is me, and then the clanging on the wine glass, that's also me. But the background is a stock sample of I think it's a busy Chinese restaurant. I think that's the vibe that I wanted to go for. So you may hear some Chinese in there. I wanted it to sound like a party though. I wanted it to sound like a dinner party. I wanted it to sound like a kind of busy event, preferably a formal event. But I thought that one where people are still chatting, where a loosened vibe at a formal event, that type of scene is what I wanted to get across. And you may have noticed by the first chord, this song, the demo, is actually a little bit different, but the lyrics were already there. The lyrics were the same. Yeah, that's about it. You can get the vibe, but that's the major thing about the demo, is that it is 4 keys lower than the final version. I'll go more over the process of what point of the song it started out with when we look over the final project file. I feel like that's a bit easier. The song started out like that. That started out 4 keys lower than the original because we got vocal training a little bit, singing training. That really opened up a new range in my voice. I never thought I could hit certain notes before. I was listening to the demos because I wrote this before then. I wrote this with a range that I thought I could do. I thought the highest note I could hit is, hold on, noise warning, I'm playing the song again. Doesn't matter what you say, which my voice is really bad. I just woke up. But then I was like, oh, after vocal training, I can go even higher. So I decided to raise the key of this one and another one too. There's a few other songs in the EP that started out much lower that I decided to raise the keys for. So that is why the demo version is much different. And there's another demo version that is also quite different. I think it's Anti-Venom from my upcoming EP. That one has quite a different demo as well. Because of this, I was able to increase the key of the song. And I think that fits because this song was inspired by specific groups that have a higher range. There's a few different inspirations that I think shine through Medusa's Masquerade. The very obvious ones are like Fall Out Boy and Panic at the Disco. That type of theater kid pop punk vibe. I think that's how I would describe them. Those types of vibes I really wanted to channel with Medusa's Masquerade, but I also wanted to combine it with like a 90s, early 2000s animated movie, like big band style villain song. Like when the villain is doing their monologue and it's like this big band with like the brass instruments. And so if it sounded like a villain song, it was on purpose. I wanted it to, you know, radiate that energy, the villainous energy. Not that I'm a villain, but that's something that I feel. I tend to write music for all different kinds of, a range of emotions, a range of feelings, a range of stuff. And I think it is better to be theatrical and dramatic with it than subdued in most cases, even though it's not exactly about something very villainous. It is amplified to that degree, if that makes sense. I really wanted it to be grand and kind of like a song from a musical or a song from a movie, but also one that you can listen to and maybe also hear on the radio. I wanted to get that combination. And normally when I have ambitions like that, I tend to not hit both of those marks, but this is probably the first song I feel like I've done it with, which is kind of ironic to say because it's the first song of mine you've heard. But I feel like I hit both of those goals and I'm really happy with it. I think this song had a very clear inspiration. So that's why this is fairly quick. The Panic at the Disco, Fall Out Boy, and like Disney villain type of vibe, or not Disney, like animated movie villain, you know, because I think more so of like other movies by other animation studios from like the 90s is what I imagine specifically, you know. I wanted to give my thoughts on the song meaning, which I'm sure you may be wondering about. I feel like with pop music and with music especially, the meaning of a song is very important. You know, it's very interesting, it's very intriguing, and people like to understand fully what a song is trying to say. However, I may be a bit frustrating when it comes to song meanings because I am very artsy, I would say. I believe that a song's meaning should be inferred by the listener. I believe that a song's meaning should be not interfered with by the writer. You know, I don't want to be the type to release a song and then release a multi-paragraph explanation about what the song means. I feel like the song itself should speak for itself. However, I'm not opposed to giving light to a song after I feel like its performance is over. But I think a song's performance lasts longer than its initial release. So for Medusa's Masquerade, I don't think its performance is quite over. So I don't want to exactly state what the song is about. I want you to infer it. I want you to listen to the lyrics and kind of come up with whatever you may have, whatever theory you may have. And that is the goal with most of my music. So whatever you think it's about is at the moment what it is about, if that makes sense. I know that's a bit frustrating, but that's my thought process with music and with lyrics and with stuff like that. I don't think there is a proper way to interpret a song, and that's why I don't want to state what a song is explicitly about, because I like that. I like how the art of music, the wonder of music as a creative medium is that the meaning of a song with the tones of a song the lyrics and the tones of a song can create a completely different meaning for every listener. And I feel like each of those meanings are valid and wonderful. And that is why I don't want to explicitly state this is the proper way to interpret this song, because it isn't. I could say this song is about drinking wine, And you could be like, oh, I thought it was about a martini, you know? And it's like, both of those are valid, you know? I don't want to limit it. At least not while I believe it is still performing, while it's still in its performance. You know what I mean? So, very long-winded way of saying that I'm not going to explicitly tell you the meaning. But I think that's the fun of it, right? And I think if you appreciate that fun of it, you're going to like how I handle my music, because how I like to listen to music too. Growing up, there was so many times when I would listen to a song and I'd have a meaning in mind. I would be like, wow, this means so much to me. And then I look up the meaning that the author, you know, wants people to interpret it with. And I'd be like, that doesn't quite align with what I had in mind. And it almost ruins the magic sometimes when it's so different or not exactly how I imagined it. So I feel like that kind of listening environment is what I like to create with my music. I can show you a little bit about the concept behind the MV creation. I can show you the actual notes that I gave to the MV artist, Wayata-sama. I gave them these sketches because I thought they'll be the easiest to get across what I wanted in the MV, what I wanted the visual to be, because I made like a demo. I made like a rough edit and everything beforehand. And I was like, this will be easy to give to, you know, it's very clear cut and stuff like that. But I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed of those sketches, especially with how cool Wayata-sama's art is. So I'm just going to grab screenshots. I just grabbed screenshots from the MV and I will give you the notes that I gave to them. Keep in mind, it is a little odd. They are written in third person. You know, the main time that you see my face, I wanted there to be 3 separate emotions there, right? I think going back to the song meaning, you might be able to glean some song meaning from the notes that I gave to Wayata-sama, right? I basically wanted the first visual that you see to be me addressing, like the banquet, the event, the large crowd at the feast, at what you now know is a busy Chinese restaurant, but it's meant to more so be a vibe of a formal dinner party. I feel like they really captured that vibe very well. The song starts with a toast, right? Let's have a toast. And I feel like I wanted it to be the type of visual that follows up the lore video very well and feels like an extravagant villain type of song. And the villain vibes continue with this scene especially, with a table that is meant to fit many guests, but only I'm there. And faceless hands, right? Ooh, what does that mean? Love that scene. If I had to pick a scene from the MV that I was the most proud of and that I liked the most, I think it would either be this one or another certain upcoming one. And I feel like this really builds up the vibe. I wanted visuals I like visuals in MVs that emphasize the beat of a song especially. So as the like drum, 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 like of the pre-chorus, I wanted Waiter's hands to move with that and really accentuate it. It's a very EDM thing, but it's something I think every musical genre could have, right? Right? It's a fun part of every musical genre. And then after that, the big chorus. This one is a very specific pose, right? For a lot of the other ones, the poses were a bit more vague. Wayata-sama did a great job at, you know, taking my rough sketches and making them very good. Making them really, really awesome to look at. This one, I knew I wanted the pose to be like this. Some kind of like striking pose that you associate with the song, with the MV, almost like a signature pose. This one was the one that's probably the most strict, like, concept of all of them. So I didn't showcase every single bit of it, but my favorite part was the second verse, visually as well, editing-wise as well, because that one was fun. This one is, I would also say, is another crucial part of the song. It is the aha, which is the accidental star of the show. The chorus is always the purposeful star of the show. And there's another part of the song, of every song that I write, that ends up being an accidental star of the show. It ends up accidentally stealing the spotlight. But it's in the same song, so I'm still happy with it. And the aha part is definitely that. Because it was meant to more so be a transition from the second verse to the final chorus. And it ended up being a lot more. So I wanted the visuals to, you know, feel like that as well. It feels almost like a slow thing, but then you realize, oh, it's a big buildup. There's a lot going on here, actually. That is the vibe. And Wayata-sama did a great job at taking my super embarrassing rough sketches and making them wonderful pieces of art that they are. I'm so happy with the MV. And that is it. That is all on the MV. So thank you so much for that.